The ballroom fell silent. Hundreds of people had stopped talking. At the center of the room stood Daniel Carter, the youngest CEO in the room, wearing an expensive black suit and holding a glass of champagne. Across from him stood his wife, Emma. She looked completely out of place. Her simple blue dress was modest compared with the designer gowns surrounding her. She wasn't wearing expensive jewelry. She wasn't carrying a luxury handbag. Daniel looked at her and smiled. Then he said something that made the entire room go quiet. "Emma, why don't you go home?" She stared at him. Daniel laughed. "This is a business event. You don't belong here." A few people exchanged uncomfortable looks. Emma's face turned pale. But she didn't cry. She simply looked at him and asked, "Are you sure?" Daniel nodded. "Absolutely." Emma smiled. "Okay." Then she turned around and walked away. Daniel thought that was the end of it. He had no idea that, 48 hours later, the company he was proudly showing off that night would no longer belong to him. 3 years earlier, Emma had met Daniel when he was still struggling to build his business. At that time, Daniel had nothing. No fancy apartment. No expensive car. No investors. He worked from a tiny office above an old restaurant and spent almost every night trying to keep his company alive. Emma believed in him. While Daniel worked on the business, Emma worked 2 jobs to help pay their bills. She never complained. When Daniel couldn't afford a proper computer, Emma sold a gold bracelet her grandmother had given her. When Daniel needed money to hire his first employee, Emma used almost all of her savings. And when Daniel told her, "One day I'll make this company huge," Emma smiled and said, "I don't need a huge company, I just want you to be happy." Daniel promised her that he would never forget what she had done for him. But success slowly changed him. Within 2 years, his company became worth millions. He moved into a luxury house. He bought expensive cars. He started attending private business parties. And slowly, Emma became someone he was embarrassed to be seen with. She didn't understand business. She didn't wear designer clothes. She didn't know how to impress investors. Daniel began introducing her as "my wife," but he stopped telling people her name. Then one evening, everything changed. Daniel brought Emma to an important business dinner. One of his biggest investors looked at Emma and asked, "So what do you do?" Before Emma could answer, Daniel laughed. "She takes care of the house." Everyone smiled politely. Emma looked at him. "I actually..." Daniel interrupted her. "Nothing complicated, she doesn't work in the company." Emma became quiet. That night, she went home without saying much. Daniel never apologized. Instead, he told her, "You need to understand something, my life is different now." Emma looked at him. "Different how?" Daniel sighed. "I'm surrounded by important people now." Emma stared at him for several seconds. Then she quietly asked, "And I'm not important?" Daniel didn't answer. That silence hurt more than any insult. But Daniel didn't know something. Emma had been working quietly behind the scenes for years. She had studied the company's financial reports. She understood the contracts. She knew which investors were unhappy. She knew which employees were planning to leave. And most importantly, she knew something Daniel didn't. His company was in serious trouble. Daniel's flashy lifestyle was hiding millions of dollars in debt. One of his biggest investors was preparing to withdraw. Several major clients were considering leaving. And the company's stock value was falling. Emma discovered the problem because she had been reviewing documents for an accountant friend. She warned Daniel, "You need to slow down." Daniel laughed. "You don't understand business." "I'm serious." Emma, please, leave business to people who actually know what they're doing. She stopped arguing. Instead, she started preparing. 2 months later came the night of the ballroom event. Daniel had invited investors, celebrities, executives, and business partners. He wanted everyone to see how successful he was. Emma came with him because she still hoped there was a chance to save their marriage. But Daniel was more interested in impressing the room than talking to his wife. When he humiliated her in front of everyone, Emma finally understood. The man she had supported was gone. She left the ballroom. But she didn't go home. She went to a small office downtown. There she met an attorney, then an investment banker, then 3 of the company's largest shareholders. For the next 48 hours, Emma barely slept. She made phone calls. She reviewed contracts. She signed documents. And on Friday morning, she made one final decision. She bought the controlling shares of Daniel's company. Monday morning, Daniel walked into his office, expecting another normal day. His assistant looked nervous. "Mr. Carter, there's a meeting at 10. "With whom?" "The new majority shareholder." Daniel smiled. "Who is it?" The assistant hesitated. Then she handed him an envelope. Daniel opened it. His smile disappeared. At the bottom of the document was a name he knew very well. Emma Carter. He stood completely still. "No," the assistant quietly said. "She's already inside the boardroom." Daniel rushed upstairs. He opened the door. Emma was sitting at the head of the table. The same woman he had told didn't belong at his business event. The same woman he had embarrassed in front of hundreds of people. Now she was sitting in his chair. Daniel stared at her. "How did you do this?" Emma looked at him calmly. "You taught me something." "What?" "That I didn't belong in your world." She placed a folder on the table. "So I built my own." Daniel couldn't speak. Emma continued. "I knew the company was failing. I knew the investors were leaving, and I knew you were too busy pretending everything was perfect to notice." Daniel looked at the documents. "You can't take my company." Emma shook her head. "I didn't take it." She paused. "I bought it." Daniel begged her to reconsider. He apologized. He reminded her of everything they had been through. But Emma didn't shout. She didn't insult him. She simply told him, "I helped you build this company when nobody believed in you." Daniel lowered his head. "I know." "No," Emma replied. "You don't. You only remember me now because I'm sitting on the other side of the table." Daniel looked at her. For the first time in years, he realized what he had lost. Not his company. Not his money. His wife. The person who believed in him before anyone else did. Months later, Emma transformed the company. She sold Daniel's luxury cars, cancelled unnecessary expenses, rebuilt relationships with clients, and personally met with the employees Daniel had ignored. Within a year, the company became profitable again. Emma became its new CEO. And Daniel, he left the company. He started a much smaller business from scratch. But this time he understood something. Success wasn't about making everyone else feel small. It was about remembering who stood beside you when you had nothing. One evening, almost 2 years after that ballroom incident, Daniel received a letter from Emma. There was only one sentence inside. "You were right, I didn't belong in your old world." Then, underneath it, "Because I was meant to build a better one." Daniel read the sentence several times. And for the first time, he smiled. Not because he had won, but because he finally understood why he had lost. Sometimes the person you underestimate isn't weak. They're simply waiting for the right moment to stop asking for a seat at your table and build their own.